Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Think Big Bodybuilding Media. I'm Scott McNally. I'm going to start this out by saying, hey, if you enjoy this content, do me a favor, hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because we've got a lot of programs coming out every week. Back on the microphone with me today is Gary Turner. We had Gary on, a bunch of times now. We did an episode of Huge as Fuck. We did Road to North Americans. We talked to Gary when he was heading to 310 pounds. We talked to him on his way back down. And now, man, a lot has happened. I know you've changed your mindset a lot. North Americans occurred. Dude, you're looking like you got on the line with me, and I was like, holy shit, where's Gary Turner and who's this guy? Because you look so different.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me back again, Scott. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. Yeah, it's been a long journey, and you've seen pretty much a lot of the different aspects, of how I've been. We had the North Americans was now, I think it's 3 weeks. We're 3 weeks post show now, and beforehand it was up to 308 was the highest that I hit in my big bulk thing. That. To be honest with you, we'll get right into it. I thought that was going to be my ticket, to, the super heavyweight class and to be competing at the, 245, 250 range. And, I had a lot of people in my ear during that whole off season it was the strongest that I ever was. But I had a lot of people in my ear saying, dude, you're still lean. You still look pretty lean for off season. You're good. And in reality, when it came down to it, is I was lean for Instagram pictures of hitting most musculars and side chests, but they didn't see my glutes, they didn't see my lower back, they didn't see with posing trunks on. Yeah. I mean, it was a mess. Now that I'm retrospectively thinking about it, and that's what we were looking at as you come down for a show is what's going on with his lower back, his glutes. How lean are those parts? And they weren't. So, of course, you keep grinding until they start to come in. And, of course, once I got hit headway, it all came off for the most part, but it was like an avalanche. It was literally once I hit around 245, and I was and I looked really good at 245, but it wasn't stage ready. And I looked at some of my close friends, and I was like, dude, I think I want to make the heavyweights. Damn. I said, and to be honest, at first, I didn't rationalize that in my head. I was kind of embarrassed, if I could be frank, on damn, exactly how I felt. I'm guys that are 305 in the offseason should not be heavyweights. They should have enough muscle tissue at that they can get down. So that was a real big, eye-opening experience for me that, you didn't have that much muscle. You had entirely too much shit, and start getting you mentally used to being a heavyweight. I certainly get used to being a heavyweight for the North Americans, because that's where it's going to be. And then that changed, coming forward. When we got into North Americans, by the time I was obviously at the stage, I knew that I was going to be a heavyweight. I saw that I was weighing. I weighed in at 222. I got on stage closer to 225 after we carved up, because I weighed in pretty early. I just wanted to see that just in case that I was 227 at weigh-ins, that we had another day of changing the diet where I could make sure that I was under 225. I didn't want to do it last minute and be like, sorry, bro, you're a super heavyweight. And then, this show, it was like a pick your poison type thing for me, at least. Going as a heavyweight, and I would have got slaughtered as a heavyweight. I, in my opinion, did pretty poorly in the heavyweights. But Nick Walker looked insane. I'm not there. I'm not even close to there. The guy who took second really pushed him. I forget his name, but he was a taller black dude, and when he undressed, he was right next to me and undressed. I was like, holy shit! Yeah. I said, this guy is going to push Walker.
He looked good too.
He looked good. If he was in Walker's condition, he would have won.
Yeah.
He would have beat him.
Was it Bundy? Was that his name?
Bundy. Yeah, that's it. And from my understanding is he's obviously a genetic freak. He's huge, great proportions, has a hard time coming in crazy ripped. If he ever does, he's a contender in the pro ranks.
Hell yeah, dude. He looked fantastic. You know, he looked great. And then so did Nate in third. Mm-hmm. I thought, looking ahead, you know, just looking at the guys by themselves, I felt like Nick was going to just like stomp through that thing. Like, I just thought, okay, he's going to be above and beyond. He just looks like this pro. But then when I saw them all together, I felt like that both of those guys, they definitely stood their own with him. You know, like it wasn't like just it wasn't like one of those things where it was like a men with boys. You know what I mean?
Right. And you know what? I'll tell you what, it's good to see the super heavyweight class have so many contenders that can go into the pro race. Because a lot of times we've seen in the years past, like guys they win the show and they rightfully won the show, but they're not pro ready.
Yeah.
They're just pro card acceptable ready.
Yeah.
And they have to take a year off. I know the lighter weights have always been notorious for that sort of thing, whether they're tall or, you know, because in the 212 and stuff like that. But those guys, a handful of those guys could jump right in the show. Nick Walker's doing Chicago in a few weeks.
I can't wait to see that too. That creates so much excitement for the sport.
Yeah,
instead of like just have it, like you said, man, so many times you see a guy who gets the pro card and then they have to disappear for 2-3 years to see like that. Do you realize like how fun that is as a fan to be like, now we get to see how he stacks up against these guys, you know?
See how he stacks up against them, see what the new crop is going to look like. We saw that with Hunter Labrada.
Yeah.
You know, and you're going to see, you know, battles with Nick Walker and Hunter Labrada in 5 years from now. Those are going to be the main hitters, I'm telling you right now.
Sure.
And in a sport that, and everybody's saying it kind of got a little stale with the same pros. They're all great, but they're all getting older.
Yeah.
It's the same guys, you know. So you now you have your Ian Valliers, your Antoine Vaillants. These guys are all going to be what the Olympia is in 5 years. You know, and you know, with the retirement of like your Phil Heaths,
Dexter Jackson.
I'm sure Brandon Curry will probably still be around. He's still on the younger side. I don't think he's 40 yet.
No,
I think he's late 30s.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
He turned pro pretty early. But yeah, it's gonna be crazy. But when I say pick your poison, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to compete against those guys. But I really didn't know. I wasn't researching who was in the heavies.
Yeah.
I knew Janowitz was going to do it. I knew he's always tough.
Yeah.
I knew Martin Fitzwater was doing it. I know he was always tough, and he's been very close before. So is Janowitz. Those two I expected to be, of course, heavy hitters. But when we got backstage, it was like mayhem. So I don't even know why they couldn't have the audience, because there was definitely the state said you can only have 100 people. There was definitely more than 100 people backstage. With no masks, not that I care. I wasn't going to wear one. If they told me you didn't have to wear a mask, I wasn't going to wear them. But there was a lot of people back there. So they go, heavyweights, get ready, or like the middleweights are on, like start pumping up, and like 30 of us stood up.
Holy crap!
I was like, ooh, this is a fucking big class, man. It's been a while since I've been in a real class, and it's great. That's great for the sport.
Yeah,
I've been to junior nationals where there's 8 heavyweights.
Yeah, I've seen you. I saw you at junior nationals with like 8 guys. You know, that's
not cool. And I understand that's the junior level, and this is the North Americans where everybody wants to be, so it's different. But it's been a long, long time since I've been in like a 20 plus, almost 30, where you're going to have like 4 call-outs.
Yeah.
So the last time, honestly, I've been in a class like that, where that was that deep, was at 2013 Junior Nationals, and there was 4 call-outs.
Nice.
So it was my first national show, so I was just like figuring out what was going on there.
Yeah.
But they called them, and I looked around. I'm like, every one of these guys are legit. There was no like, what the fuck is this guy doing here type thing.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm gonna have to outpose, and I worked on posing between my qualifier and the North Americans. It was 2 weeks. I had my buddy Frank Manarino, who's another bodybuilder. He's actually posed with Dareem Charles.
Okay.
When he was in Florida. So he knew like how to run a posing practice. So he put me through every night from the next day of the qualifier all the way to the show with posing conditioning. So there was times that we were holding poses for like almost a minute. I mean, profusely sweating. So I was ready for it. I said, I'm going to have to excel on that. I'm going to have to excel with conditioning, and hope that they just like my look. It didn't go my way. They called out 4 in the first call out. It was like Martin, Janowitz, one other guy and Anthony Spencer, and they were like, they were head and shoulders above the class. And I ended up coming out in the third call out. So I guess they look positively, at least I wasn't in the fourth call out.
There you go. Yeah.
So, let me hold on to something there. But like, long story short, like I was upset when I got off stage. After speaking with Palumbo, like, the things that need to change, I calmed down and like I cleared my head and I was like ready to go for like Monday again.
Of course you were.
Yeah, I was like ready to go. I trained on Monday, of course. But it was a very big learning experience. Yeah. I'm not the first or last guy who's gonna go to that level that's gonna have that same thought process or experience. So and Dave said it from the beginning. He goes, "You're not getting that," because I'm training with him in the off season as well.
Good. Okay.
I didn't last time. When I was heavy, Dave said, "You're not getting that heavy. You're not even going to get close to that heavy. You're going to have to stay lean." Yeah. And he goes, "You have all the muscle for a heavyweight category at that level, so it's not like I could say you just need to get bigger." He goes, "Certain areas of yours really lack, especially at that thing." He goes, "You have bad adductors, so that's going to be the number one thing that's going to have to do is your adductors need to touch down to your knees when you're in your front poses. It will enhance your front and back double bicep." Yeah. He goes, "Your middle back and your erectors need to come out." He goes, "Your back is wide," and he goes, "and it's a great shot for you." But he goes, "If you have better posterior chain, especially your erectors and mid back," he goes, "your lat spread is going to be like lights out." Okay. So he goes, "That's something you need to work on." He goes, "We're going to get more deadlifting in there." And he actually has been having me send videos of back training where he's not held back on me. The other day he said, "You have no range of mobility." And now today I went and did yoga. Okay, so no kidding. He sent me to yoga, which was an experience in and of itself. There was 50-year-old soccer moms in there doing the poses right, and I was sweating profusely all over the mat. Like, I was like trying to. I hung okay, but like, it is not easy, and it is not a sissy thing to do. Yeah. So I'm excited to see how that works out because I need to be much more flexible. And then for what the other thing he said is like, if you stay lean in your off season without having that avalanche prep, and drop from say just arbitrarily 255 to 225. Your prep is not going to be chaotic and catastrophic. He goes, your look will be so much better. You'll be twice as full. Yep. Probably look twice as hard. And he goes, and it's everything that it should be, pending that you brought the areas that you needed to bring up. He goes, your legs are still behind, which we knew. They were better than they were 2 years ago. My training's a lot better, but they're not a strong point. It's still like I said, from the side, they're okay. Yeah. I have a good ham drop in the side chest and side tricep. It's from the front where they need to be beefier. So, we just go back to the drawing board on that. But the biggest thing is you cannot get that far out of shape and then expect to start a prep. Maybe some guys can do it, but it just doesn't work for me. And
well, listen, I want to back up, man, because I want to talk a little bit about that diet because. Okay, so we talked maybe 10, 12 weeks out. You were still 270. And at that time you said, hey, we haven't gotten that hard with the diet yet. You said, but, I know people who've worked with Dave. I've talked to friends, and I have a feeling it's going to be about 8 weeks out. He's going to pull the trigger. And so we know you're holding around 270, 265 maybe out at 10 weeks out from the show, 8 weeks out from the show. What the hell was going on in Gary Turner's life between that 8 weeks out to that 2 weeks out, because you literally lost 50 plus pounds.
Yeah. And that's what it looked like. If you saw every check-in, we're talking about, there were times that I would lose 5 pounds in 3 days. And I would report that, of course. And you'd be like, okay, that right around 8 weeks out was when I started carb cycling. Okay. And I started off with a protein and fat diet only, no carbs one day, and then the next day will be protein, carbs, and greens. And then you flip flop. No matter what you were training, you flip flop. And I didn't feel bad because every other day I was having, not a lot of carbs. We're talking like 150, And then the
but
fats were probably.
But no fats on that day, right?
No added fats. The last meal
Yeah.
was like a steak meal.
Okay.
So it wasn't zero fat, but there was no macadamia nut oil. There was no almonds added, no peanut butter.
I know when I've done that with people, usually it's on those, people think it's going to be the carb day where they get the relief. But I feel like the carb days I've gotten, and I've seen people get even hungrier because then you get those carbs, your metabolism's going, blood sugar gets thrown around a little.
I looked the best on the no carb days.
Yeah.
I felt the driest on them, and it was for the time I felt dry. And then as the weeks got on and he needed to progress even more, obviously the cardio was going up as we're doing this.
Yeah,
it got high. The highest I got was an hour in the morning, hour at night.
Okay,
on the treadmill.
Yeah.
So it's not crazy, but it's higher than. It's higher than a lot of other people.
Yeah, it's more than you'd want to have to do.
I enjoy the cardio, so it wasn't like when he told me I was like, "Fuck this shit."
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay. Like I looked at it as an opportunity to get better. So I mean, maybe that's like a maturity type thing for me as a competitor that I'm looking as a tool, not as like a punishment.
Dude, plus you want to suffer, Gary. Let's be honest.
Yeah. There was times like I was like borderline like complaining in the beginning where I was like, dude, I thought this was gonna be harder.
Yeah.
And I'm used to these Matt Porter preps where like out of the gate he's like gunning with you, and then like and like Dave was like a lot slower, and I'm like, dude, are we gonna actually prep for this show or like? And then well, obviously we did, but I do like to suffer. There's like a something with it that I kind of it's like a feather in my cap type thing. Sure. I enjoy it. But so as we went on with the diet, the days between the carb days grew bigger. So that became 2 days of the fat and protein, and then the carb day, and then the most that it got to was 3 days, so 3 on, 1 off. Mm-hmm. And when he got to the very end, by that time when I was on 3 on, 1 off, we were talking about losing like 5 to 7 pounds a week.
Wow.
We were losing 2 pounds. We were checking in probably every other day at that point, and I was easily 2.5 pounds every other day.
Yeah.
So I was doing about, I think if I averaged it, probably 1 pound to 1.5 pounds a day, depending on fluids and stuff. So it's a lot.
I don't know if everybody could do that. Like, I think that you had to be with, like you said, you like the suffer, you like the grind. I feel like not everybody would be able to handle that. I really do.
It was a total mind change on that in terms of like getting it out of my head that I'm going to be really heavy. And as I was getting that, the scale was going down, I saw the changes. I was getting very veiny. My glutes are starting to come in. Of course, my quads are separated. So I was happy with the look. There was at no point in the latter part of the prep where I was like, dude, I look like fucking shit, or dude, I'm skinny. The only time I ever felt skinny in the face, but I always do. It always like sinks in pretty good. But no point in the gym did I never feel like I wasn't like rounder. Like in the past, I felt like a bitch in the gym. Like I felt I was strong up until probably, or pretty strong for my standards, up until probably a week and a half out.
You're kidding. Wow.
It's got to be the fats, because I've never prepped with fats like this before. I usually had just protein and carbs, and I was like weak, like benching like 80-pound dumbbells like the last week because like I couldn't, like struggling with them, like I couldn't like do more than that. And I was still laying into some decent weight, not off-season weight, but some decent weight, and I was training that way. So, it was definitely a different experience. And like Dave said, if he had a better canvas starting out, it would have worked out, a lot differently. So listen, it's his first time. He didn't make any mistakes. Most of the changes he made, I went, that's on point, or that's what I would do, or something like that. Yeah. There was never like any kind of like, what the hell is he doing? This makes no sense. I'm flat right now. Yeah. There was never any kind of like that. He was super attentive. Where he was like, we were checking in obviously every day at the end, and then in the last couple of days was like multiple times, like, eat this, check in with me an hour later. So it was like, got to put the trunks back on. Yeah. So a little bit, different from what I'm used to. So that was, I was really happy with like, his professionalism as a coach. And like, I felt like he was, investing some time into me to make sure that this goes in, which, something I talk to a lot of people, not about him, but like other coaches, where they feel like that they're just like a number,
sure,
or that they're just getting something. They're just getting something. And you shouldn't feel that way. That's a customer service aspect of coaching, is that you don't take on more people than you can handle. You make sure everybody feels that they're getting the attention that they paid for.
Absolutely.
And so I think that everything that he did was perfect. And this time around, I'm planning on giving him a good canvas to start
the
2021 season. So
hell yeah, man. So you're not going to push up too heavy now. And man, it's such a different mindset than before. I almost feel like, you're an outspoken guy. You've been on our show. You've talked about this. I've seen you talk about it on social media. You've hosted your own podcasts and stuff that, you share your ideas and you're happy to do that. And now you're saying like, hey, I wasn't really right about this whole thing.
Right.
And I think it takes a lot to be able to do that. But also, I think it's important that even when we do make mistakes, that we're willing to try new things. And we couldn't have known, man. You pushed that size to the absolute limit. You know what I mean? You really did. Over 300 pounds. I think, and like I said before, man, you inspired a lot of people too. So I guess now everybody's trying to think like, what do we do now? Do we not listen to what Gary said? Do we not put on all that weight?
There are still some people who think that my size right now has something to do with those periods that I've had of very heaviness. I know Adam McVeigh with Geared Up said it before. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think maybe like a small amount might have something to do with that. But yeah, I preached on like the other day, I made a post about what I call the white belt mentality. The white belt being the most beginner part of karate.
Yeah.
You don't know anything. It's your first belt. You have to learn everything from scratch. So I promote, too many guys get into this sport and they get to like say an intermediate level, whether it's time or just even level of that, or if they're an advanced level, and think they know everything. They might not even mean it in an arrogant way, but they just think because they've been around it for a certain amount of time that they're not open to learning new things or taking advice from somebody else. Maybe it's an ego thing or something like that. So I've always tried to have the white belt mentality to learn, when Dave tells me to do this, or if somebody who's advanced says, listen, buddy, you're not activating your lats and your pull down like that because you're not keeping your elbow in front or something like that. Whereas, for the longest time we did lat pull downs from here just the normal way. Yeah. When in reality, that hits very little of your lats. How many of us knew that in the beginning?
Yeah.
How many advanced lifters do you know that are still doing wide lat pull downs for wide back? Wrong.
What are you doing? And what are you doing now?
In terms of like lat training?
Yeah, like for your lat pull downs, because I'm doing something different and I want to know. I'm just curious to see if my ideas are lining up with yours.
I'm doing my gym has the Prime handles, Prime Fitness handles. So I usually do about a neutral grip. I hang it there, and what I like to do is I like to scoot my butt back either on the pad so that the handle is up in front of me.
Yeah.
Or I'll kneel on the ground. So I'll hold it and then kneel on the ground so I'm fully stretched out, and all my focus is driving my elbow straight down.
You're not out here back anymore.
Right. And I'm not trying to elbow somebody behind me. I want to elbow the ground.
Almost like a pullover.
Yes. And like that. So when you keep that in line straight down, your hand is in front of you.
Yeah. And
that's how you activate out. You can feel it. Your back blows up.
Yeah.
When you do it right. And that's kind of just like what I'm saying is like the lat pull down's got to be the most beginner exercise that everybody does for back training the first day, but they all have the wrong idea. The lat pull down with the bar has its place, but it's more trap, I find. It's more rear delt, lower trap as well, and like it maybe some of the Terrys, but it does not hit your lower lats where people think like those big bellowing lats is a lat pull down. There's a lot of other things to do that. And, I picked that up from certain people. Like, main person for that is Alan Kress has posted about that a lot. And I would say I've been training for almost 15 years, but I want to listen to Alan because he's making a good point.
Yeah.
I can either keep doing it the same way that I've done it and I'd have bad lats, or I could do it with the biomechanically right way to have the mechanical advantage for it and do it how the body's intended to move. and then get the right stimulation. So it's like, I always believe in that white belt mentality. I don't believe in aimlessly taking everybody's excuse. You have to siphon through the bullshit, but when somebody knows, when you trust your coach on it, pending that your coach knows, because a lot of people's coaches don't, and they just sell a nice, pretty package.
Right.
But you should rethink what you're doing and not be set in your ways, or you're just going to waste more time. That's the same thing. I could have sat here and said, no, the bulking way is right. And then what am I going to do? Waste another off season? Probably get more unhealthy. But you kind of, for me, I had to put my ego aside and admit I was wrong. I have a mindset change. We'll see how this works out.
Sure.
Because that's how it goes,
Well, okay. And let's look at the other side of the coin then too. So it couldn't have been a complete wash. You know what I mean? Right. You trained hard. You ate a ton of food. Maybe it wasn't ideal, but what now that you dieted down again, what are you seeing? What did you improve on? What have you noticed that has been better than before that bulk?
Definitely my glutes were better shape than they were. So my glute training, which I did 2 years of targeted glute training.
Nice. Yeah.
Bridges, goblet squats, hyper extensions that were all geared towards, like I said, okay, now I got to train glutes. In the past, I just had like a leg day.
Yep.
I'm like, well, squats will get it. First off, my squatting sucks, so it's like it didn't get it. And I never had, so I would always get up there like pretty lean and have like no glutes, and then like the skin would be like thin there, like loose, and it's like Gary doesn't have striated glutes. Gary also doesn't have glute muscles.
Yeah, so
I was very impressed. They came very late again because I was so heavy. I'm sure when I'm leaner, they'll be striated, a little bit earlier than when they were. So they came, but they came in by the end, and to like the point where my rear lat spread was a really strong pose, and I was really happy with like when I turned around and flexed them. They can be better. They're not like Nate Spear level, where like those hotel pictures he was putting out.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
but you see improvement though.
I saw improvement there. I saw improvement in my leg size.
Yeah,
they're still behind, but they're better than what they were at the 2018 Junior Nationals.
I noticed that too. I definitely noticed that too. I thought they look improved.
The type of cardio had a lot to do that because for the Junior Nationals 2018, I was doing like mostly HIIT cardio on the elliptical.
Yeah,
that was like a Matt Porter thing. It was very short bursts, sprint jog type thing. Dave is low intensity, so it was mostly treadmill the entire time. Was pretty much the entire time. So I did that so I was less abusive on my legs.
Yeah.
So that held off that pretty well. I was overall a little bit bigger, so you can't go by like, well, I didn't really gain much weight, stage weight. I felt that Dave had me tighter than I was at the Junior Nationals. So there is some give and take there that like keep your body weight the same. Yeah. I felt like a bigger human being a little bit, but I felt tighter. I felt that, but I still feel that it could go some more. So honestly, we go into next season, I could see myself at 222 again, and that wouldn't be a problem. I could be and be bigger, but better condition. You never know. There's a million different ways that you can look at one weight.
And I'm sure, dude, we've seen you with this just like super gnarly conditioning. I'm confident that if you start at whatever 250, even 260, if that's where your starting is on the diet, there's no question. I mean, it's just a matter of time in where you are when you start. You're obviously going to be able to get leaner next time. There's no question then.
The picture that I'm standing out that like people like really call me like the gnarly picture. It was in the middle of the 2017 show, and that I started at 250 and pretty lean, not crazy lean, but like very, very, very acceptable off-season shape at 250. And I came in and that show I was 213, and I remember my wife took it. And it was just like veins everywhere, and I obviously had little stilt legs, but it still was probably my best conditioning to date. So if my landmarker that I'm trying, like 255 is my landmark to stay at, and I'm going to fight that. I don't want, like right now I woke up at 239.9. I've been that for like 2 weeks now.
Okay.
I've held I've held 235 to 240 for about 2 weeks. Gained maybe like a pound or two either way, but I'm also cycled off completely right now.
Okay.
Dave has me cleaning out completely. I'm doing a PCT. I did HCG. I'm doing Clomid.
No kidding.
Right now. Yeah, I haven't done that in a while, and I know there's going to be a million people that are going to watch and go, he's nuts. He goes, he's going to feel like shit, or he's not going to make any. Listen, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
I haven't done this since 2016. I've been, TRT'd.
Yeah.
Like
everybody else.
Like everybody else. And I want to see if this theory of, and I don't know if it's bro science, but we're going to find out if the resensitization of androgen receptors is a bro science myth or if it works, because I want to see how hard I react. Like when I come on, my plan to start in November 7th, which is 9 weeks post North Americans.
Yeah.
So I didn't do anything after North Americans. I went immediately into HCG. I don't feel bad. I still feel my strength is climbing. I keep a logbook now. That's like my new thing, is I'm like Dante Trudell, like writing down in the old school notebook. I'm looking back at the old workouts from last week. Okay, I need 13 reps on this thing here now.
Nice.
So
is Dave encouraging that?
He doesn't know about that, but
okay.
It's something I'm trying to. But I think that he would, and that helps me keep the volume down. I have a habit of being the guy who goes to the gym, and because I enjoy being there. Yeah. And clanging, and bang. We'll do 4 sets of that. We'll do 5 sets of that. Don't forget the pendulum squats, and it's like I like to do it, and I have the perseverance to go through all that.
Yes.
Doesn't mean it's good for your physique. Yeah. Doesn't mean it's progressive. So I write it down, and then I'll look at it, and I'll consult with people. I go, you think this is too much volume? And they go, you don't need a feeder set for that. He goes, you're already warmed up. Just hit an all-out set. Do just a rest pause here, and then you should be good. And then they'll lower it, or they'll be like, yeah, it's good to go. So now I know how many sets, and then now I have established that so far, and now I'm just going to beat the logbook. And so far it's going good. Every workout, I feel very conditioned. I feel very full. And that's while I'm not taking it. I understand there's still gear in my system. It's only been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
There's still some got to be lingering around, not as optimal as 2 weeks ago.
Sure. And red blood cells are going to be higher than they were still. So yeah.
It's that 5 weeks to 9 weeks.
Yes. That's when I think it's like 5 weeks when all your red blood cells will turn over. So it takes that long before all the excess is gone. So yeah, that'll be an interesting spot. But hey, listen, man, I mean, bodybuilding is a couple steps forward and a step back, right? So if you do take a half a step back or whatever, you know that you're not going to stay that direction.
Right. And I like that I have that logbook, because I'm not expecting the logbook to keep climbing through as I'm cycling off. That's physically impossible. But if I can hold it or keep it close, that should be a good indication that what can happen when I finally do get on, and get moving again. And then, that starts the real push for the size. And then that's why I'm so concerned also with keeping my weight down. I don't want it at 255 right now, because I don't want to be 255 natural and then spike up to 265, 270 and not like the excessive bullshit that added on. What I want to do is I want to be a tight 240 and just stay where I'm at right now, and then move to 255 at full throttle with the gear, and then it should be nice come prep time in 2021.
Yeah, I want to talk to some people who have, because there is a mindset out there. And I'm thinking of guys like, I'm going to even say like Dusty. Dusty has been a guy where it's like he was able to continue pushing up, and some people can just push up and get heavier and it works. And then some people end up, where you ended up, where it was not optimal. It was not the best thing for you. Where's that middle ground? I don't know, man. Is there some people, I guess, that it's like, well, they're the genetic elite and the rest of us can't do that? I really don't know,
I think there's a middle ground, and I know where it was. I looked in the off season pretty good, like decent off season condition at 270. And I remember I was training well. I was looking decent, not stage ready, not even like what I look like now. Yeah. But I looked pretty good, and I was the one, not my buddy who was helping me with my diet. He was giving me the diet and everything. I'm the one who said we should go for 300. Yeah. So I take full responsibility. Nobody pushed me into doing that. I was the one that wanted to see it. It was the novelty of it. It was something I've been chasing for years that I've never gotten. And now that novelty's worn off. I don't have any interest in, all the oohs and ahs, your 300. It's gone now. Now it's time to bodybuild. And so I think that 270 range, if I didn't care about being 300 pounds, which is the max of where I should have stayed.
Okay, yeah.
And then theoretically, we have been in this prep from 270 to 225, which is much more manageable than 305 to 225.
Absolutely.
So, and then like I said, I'm an extremist. So as you can see, anything I do is like going one way or another. So now I'm like 255 is like ultra lean.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So it's like, do I have to stay at 255? Probably not, but that's me being neurotic, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to be too lean when you start your prep.
Yeah.
Things can be slower and everything will look nicer at the end.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'd love to keep up with you and hear, how things progress. If you're going to start pushing again in November, which I remember last November is when you started last November is when you started pushing again too. Last November. That's right.
Yeah.
And then you hit then you went up and you crossed, I think you were in the 290s, if I want to say so, right around there.
Yep.
I'll be curious to see how things go. I'd love to get back with you to find out some more about what you're finding out in your training as this evolves. See what's bringing up, because you're not the only guy who needs to bring his adductors up. You're not the only guy who needs to bring his back up. These are things we're all trying to work on.
Yep.
I think that a lot of people could benefit and learn from the things that you're learning.
It's a lot of that's the hard stuff. It's one thing to be able to have to bring your arms up, but it's another thing to the adductors especially. They're a very specialized type thing because they're going to take a lot of for me, and what I've learned, even from the use of the adductors, you have to get all the way down the hole from a squat. That's when the adductors take over. It's not the shallow part of the squat. So for me, I can't do that. Well, that's why I'm trying to increase my mobility and my flexibility. If you notice, guys that have crazy adductors or just great legs in general, and they've done it through squatting, and you look at their squat form, and they're just so limber. Their chest is upright, and they're coming straight down.
Yeah.
Their legs develop because of the way that they could squat, because of their hip mobility. And the guys that didn't, like me, who have bad hip mobility, have had that my whole life as a young kid. I'm not a flexible guy. Didn't develop. Didn't make good mind-muscle connection with that. And now we're playing catch-up at 32 years old on now using our brain on how to make this work. So, these are the things where it's going to come. It's going to be tricky, but at least I identified it, and we're going for it.
Absolutely, yeah. That's something I've really been working on too. Is that I know I want to get. My goal is to get stronger, and in order to get stronger, I know that I have to. Basically, I do want to put on size, but in order to put on size, I want to get stronger. I think that that's for me going to be the answer, but I need to use the best form that I can. So I started working on the same stuff, man. Hip mobility, ankle mobility. And you know what? It's kind of cool when you get into it. I'm sure you're seeing this too if you've already been practicing it, that you can there's a direct payoff to it. There is some instant gratification, because if I work on my ankles for a few days and then I squat, I'm like, "Oh, this is better." You know what I mean? It's like I'm getting more out of this.
All of a sudden it becomes fun.
Yes. Yeah. It really does.
I hated training legs until I discovered the hack squat.
Okay.
I knew about that, but I use the reverse bands, and I try to overload with that.
Yeah.
I enjoy that movement so much that leg day has become one of my favorites. And then, of course, my legs have grown. So, of course, when you have a good result in the gym, you like to do that. But if you had little stick legs and it looks like shit and it feels like shit, you're not going to want to do it.
Yeah.
So, that was a good thing. Like you're saying, when you all of a sudden you make your ankles feel better.
Yeah.
You're going to want to go into this squat, because you're going to feel good doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's, even the yoga has some instant payoff besides the long-term mobility. It can help me stay conditioned. When I tell you that I was sweating profusely all over this mat today,
dude,
and it was only 71 degrees. It wasn't some hot yoga where it was 110 degrees in there. And all these ladies were next to me, on their own mats, and they're doing it just fine. I'm looking to see if the sweat's beating off them, and it's not.
Yeah.
And I'm literally on this pose on all fours, and it's just coming off, and I'm looking around, I'm like, this teacher probably thinks, because it's my first class, I'm like, this teacher probably thinks I'm like some kind of freaking weirdo sweating on the mat like this. And then, you know, but she knew I had spoken to her before about like why I was there and like, you know, what I was looking to do and stuff like that. So, but, you know, I think that could help with some kind of conditioning. It's like a second cardio session.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that yoga class? I definitely burned calories while I was there.
Oh, there's no question, man. It's brutal too. And I feel like just everything you get out of it. I did yoga for about a year and I'm not doing it now. But when I got into it, man, I could tell, you know, like not only did it increase my flexibility, but I got more, I got just like better balance in my connection to my body. Like I felt like it was just, if all things you could just, it made like moving through the world a little bit easier. I don't know how to explain it. And they make what they call a yoga towel. It's like the same size as your mat. You're going to need to get one, man. They're awesome, but it soaks up all that sweat. Literally, my yoga towel would feel like you just ran it under like a shower or something by the time I was done. But yeah, they're great because that way I know what you're talking about, man. Like I would literally just have puddles on that thing and then you'd start sliding around. So get a yoga towel.
I was looking in the mirror and I had like sort of shorter shorts on.
Yeah.
And every quad vein was sticking out of my legs. And I was like, these ladies are going to lose their mind. I'm like, there's like this creature that just stomped through their Sunday morning class.
Yeah.
But you know, they were like a few of them asked me like how I liked it and stuff like that. I'm like, I said I loved it. I said, but it's definitely difficult. It's going to take some practice. You know, to do it. There's certain I forget what it's called, but the one yoga pose where you go it's basically an ass to grass squat and you sit there like this.
Oh God.
I looked like a complete moron. And I said to the teacher at the end, I said, that pose right there is the exact reason why I'm here, because I can't do that.
Damn. Yeah.
Because I can't keep my heels flat on the ground.
Right.
And lower my butt all the way to the ground. Every other woman did. Obviously, women are more flexible than, you know, men, let alone a muscular man. So I want to be able to just lower that down, like into that crouched position, feet underneath me, heels on the ground, and then we know we've hit the ultimate squat flexibility.
Hell yeah. Are you still doing your podcast right now?
Right now we're on like a brief break just because we're out of the office right now.
Okay.
So I don't know when we're going back in the office. We're waiting on that. It could be, it's not this month. It could be at the end of the year, if not the beginning. Yeah. At which time we plan on restarting it so we can professionally film it. It was a lot better when we were doing it in studio. Compared to the mobile things like that. So we're it's on like a brief break.
Okay.
But, you know, it'll come back soon.
Cool. Well, we'll look forward to that. And anybody who wants to follow along with everything Gary's doing, we'll have his social media down in the description. Anything else we should mention while I got you here?
I know you were concerned with where I was 8 weeks out. You didn't hear from me.
Yeah, I was, man.
I went a little dark. I did it on purpose to focus, and I didn't. I've had people call me out before. You know, there's your bodybuilding trolls and stuff like that. And
really,
I'm not gonna name any names, but you'll be able to figure out who. But you know, I didn't want to give them any ammunition, or maybe even get a DM or a comment, or have anybody critiquing like, hey, bro, you're never going to be in shape, or what the hell are you doing? That's 8 weeks out, or like something like that. So I didn't post anything that resembled a progress video. I put a few gym pictures up. Yeah. You know, that like, you know, they didn't show much. They showed your shoulders or like some of your biceps or something like that. But I didn't want to put any kind of things showing the glutes or anything like that, because I just didn't want anybody's feedback. I didn't care for anybody's feedback. It wasn't a finished product. Yep. And I did, and by no means did I ever want to come off that I'm going to dominate this show. Mm-hmm. This show's not ready for me or anything like that, because I'm a new guy at this level. I've never competed in a pro qualifier. I didn't know how it was going to go, or anything like that. So I didn't want to even make the vicinity of guarantees or crazy things like that. So I kept it kind of low key, and just tried to work and not give anybody any ammunition to use against me in the event that things didn't go that well. Yeah, no, and I get that, man. I get that, totally. It's like,
Yeah, I think everybody has to get that. You put yourself out there like that. It's the last thing you needed. Basically, like I already said, man, I think you were doing something that a lot of people probably wouldn't have been able to get through. Being able to push to the level that you had, other people would have cracked under that for whatever their own personal reasons were. Whenever we prep, if anybody who's really, really prepped and really pushed to their ultimate conditioning, it's a mind fuck. You know, you're your own worst enemy. And I've seen a lot of people that have dropped out of shows because, you know, their expectations were too high, or things didn't go the way they wanted them to. Something was different. It would have been very easy for you to pull out of that, man. And, you know, you did what you had to do. So I totally respect that, you know?
Yeah, it's all a mental game. And I see guys that were good that pulled out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're like, dude, if I look like this guy, I would be on cloud 9. But you know, it's just some people's mental capabilities are a little bit different. You know, that I call that a form of genetics in this. You know, we always think genetics is like just shape or insertions. Keeping your mind sound and together, dealing with criticism, stuff like that is all a type of genetic that not everybody has. Some of even the best physiques don't deal with that or can't keep a sound mind.
Sure.
And that could be their downfall. Even Dorian said, he goes, if Flex Wheeler had my mental capability, he didn't even say work ethic. He said mental capability, he would have crushed me on stage.
Wow.
So like a lot of times I think like Flex Wheeler, I didn't like the way he looked. So if that guy had the ultimate confidence and belief in himself like Dorian had, then who knows? That guy could have been a 10-time Mr. Olympia. We don't know.
Yeah.
You know, he had the genetics for it. So it just comes in different forms.
Well, you know, too, there's something to be said that the sticking to and pushing through the lessons that you were able to learn coming out the other side. If you were to just pull out and be like, I'm going to stop here at 260 and I'll wait and I'll do a show next year. You know, I don't think you would have had half of the insights that you've gained now.
That's correct. And I would never have done that. I always say contest prep, I hate when people drop out unless they like tear something, they have a family emergency, they get really sick or something like that. But contest prep to me is like you're going in a dark tunnel and you're closing the door locks behind you and there's only one way out, and that's to walk down the tunnel towards the light and deal with all the shit that's on the way with it. Yeah,
you committed.
You have to get through it.
Yeah.
You can't. There's no doors to exit out the side.
Yeah.
I look at that as kind of like a pussy move, to be honest with you, to leave your prep. Like I said, unless there's extenuating circumstances that deal with your health or something like that. Finish the goddamn show. You committed to it.
Yeah. Or you know what, man? I don't know if I would say. I don't know if I agree or disagree about it being a pussy move, but I'll say this. I do think that there are people that can do that. And here's my thought. If you are in the middle of that and this just sucks and this is terrible and that you hate it that much that you want to quit, then maybe this wasn't for you. You know?
Like overall. Overall.
Yeah, maybe this is not for you, because to me, I agree with you that that's the challenge. You know what I mean? That's the challenge there, is being able to face yourself and still get through it. And if that's not for you, that's okay too.
Let me clarify. That's okay. But you know the types I'm talking about. They quit the prep and then they say, no, next year is good. Next year, and they still consider themselves a bodybuilder. And next year I'm going to get into. This year wasn't. Now, if you want to retire, that prep is not for you. You say, I'm done with competing altogether. It's not for me. I'll respect what you say. I don't think.
That's a different thing.
When people start exiting because things aren't convenient or things pop up in their life during prep that it's like, well, there's that festival that I wanted to go to. It's like, dude, come on. There's got to be some kind of sacrifice.
Yeah. Yes.
I miss a lot of things, and there's no point in my prep, whether I prep for the summer, spring, or fall shows, where I'm not going to miss something. My schedule is never blank.
Yeah.
My son's going to play sports through the whole time. I'm going to have to go to all of them. So, summer is going to be eventful. I'm going to have to attend some things, in there that I can.
Yeah.
Or miss some things. So it's like you integrating your life, your regular life into contest prep is part of the game.
Yeah.
Nobody is locked in a room like a creature that's just released to the gym and then back. So to think that your circumstances are always going to be ideal, where you could now's the right time for me to do a show. I'd say, for me, pick the show and then fit the rest of your life in.
There you go.
Don't miss anything, but fit it in.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you, man. All right, let's get out of here for another episode of Advices Radio and Think Big Bodybuilding Media. I'm Scott McNally, and I'm here with Gary Turner. Thanks a lot, Gary. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me.